Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Merrillville Town Council meeting for today, Tuesday, July 25th, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. Please stand for our invocation, followed by a moment of silence.
Let us pray. Father, we thank you for this day and for the grace of being able to join another meeting with our Merrillville Town Council. We thank you for the president and for all of the council men and women. We pray that you would give them the grace and the wisdom, Lord, to lead this city, this town. And we thank you, Father, for every person, oh God, who are supporting, Father, and the citizenship, oh God, of this town, that you would keep them. Thank you for the police officers and the chief, Lord, who will be sworn in. We ask for your grace upon their lives. Protect them, oh God, as they do their jobs. Every service of this administration, we ask your hand be upon and bless this meeting for success, we pray in Jesus' name.
Amen. Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Mr. Hardaway, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk Treasurer, can you call the roll, please?
Certainly. Good evening, Councilwoman Neal.
Good evening here.
Good evening, Councilman Hardaway.
Good evening. Here.
Good evening, Councilman Minchuk.
Here.
Good evening, Councilwoman Uzelak.
Here.
Good evening, Councilman Pettit.
Good evening. Here. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Good evening, Councilman White.
Good evening.
And good evening, President Bella.
Hello, Kelly. I am here also.
Everybody's here.
7 present, thank you. Moving on tonight to petitions, communications, acknowledgements, and remonstrations. We have the July Employee of the Month. Mr. King.
So the Employee of the Month, this month, for the month of July, is for the Parks Department, for Jason Anderson. So, Jason, come on up here. Come on up here, Jason. Come here.
Jason.
So we're going to present you with a certificate of recognition. It says, Jason epitomizes the criteria sought after for such an honor as this. Jason has a commitment to excellence in all that he does for the Town Parks Department. Awarded 25th day of July 2023. We also have here's a gift card for you on behalf of the town. And if you'd like to say anything, you don't have to.
Thank y'all.
Congratulations. Thank you, Steve. Moving on tonight to a swearing-in ceremony of a new patrolman in the Merrillville Police Department. Officer Brayson Nealon, please come forward with our clerk treasurer. That's perfect, Kelly. Thank you.
All right, I need you to repeat after me, okay? Raise your right hand. I, Bryson Lewis Nyland, solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of the State of Indiana,
Chief Newses?
Hello, I'd like to welcome Bryson aboard. He's the newest member of our team. He's going to be heading out to the academy here soon, and he's going to be putting in a few weeks of some hard training and studying. And then when he's ready, he's going to be out on the road. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. So Costa, you might as well stay right there in the middle, because I believe you're up next. Yes, I'll give that to you. Thank you.
Thank you. It is my honor to swear you in. Can you guys hear me? It's on. Okay. All right. Costas, raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Konstantinos Noussis, solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of the State of Indiana,
And the Constitution of the State of Indiana.
and that I will faithfully,
And that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and honestly discharge my duties as
and honestly discharge my duties as
Police Chief of the Merrillville Police Department
Police Chief of the Merrillville Police Department
in the town of Merrillville, Indiana,
in the town of Merrillville, Indiana,
according to the law
according to the law
and the best of my skill and ability.
and the best of my skill and ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Chief.
Thank you, Kelly. So, Chief, you might be seeing some unusual-looking uniforms here, and we'd like to ask these chiefs to introduce themselves and what city you're from.
Chief Ryan Patrick, City of Crown Point. Chief Peter Sormouse, Town of Schererville.
Chief Vince Balbo, Lake County Sheriff's Department.
And Chief Anthony Titus, Gary, Indiana.
All right, thank you guys for being here.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you very much.
I'll take it. So if you guys don't mind, we'll get a couple group shots real quick with everybody. I want to also thank the clergy group who wanted to come up and show their support tonight and stand in solidarity. Also, the police commissioners for their recommendation for this chief and for their support tonight. And please come up and get a nice photograph.
Do you want the council in this?
No, no.
Council, I love you, but either sit down or. Okay. I love you all. Sean, you're so tall, you gotta like.
Should I go out in the hall,
Yeah.
Jody?
Yeah. All right, let me do this. I'm gonna do just the clergy, the new chief, and then we'll do the command staff, and then we'll do all the chief of police, and then we'll do the police special, okay? Awesome, thank you. Okay,
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, audience, for your indulgence as we did this tonight. Appreciate that. Congratulations, Chief. Too much going on. I'll talk to you later. Thank you, Kelly, for the beautiful ceremony.
No, thank you for setting it up so thoughtfully.
Sure. Moving on tonight to the consent agenda, we have the accounts payable register voucher approval for July 25th, and also the approval of the town council meeting minutes of July 11th.
So moved.
You have a motion by Mr. Pettit, second by Mrs. Uselak for approval of the consent agenda. Any questions or comments on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? That motion carries. Moving on to standing and special committee reports, Budget and Finance, Mr. Hardaway.
Thank you, Mr. President. To all department heads, you should have got your packets for budget. I think our budget hearings are going to be second week of August, somewhere around August the 14th, August 14th and 15th. So at that time, we'll ask that everybody have their information ready and get it to Trista. I think Trista needs it next week, if I'm not mistaken, so that she can formulate what you guys have, so that when we sit down on the following week, we'll be able to speak intelligently to what your requests are. If you have any questions, please reach out to Trista, and she should be able to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Moving on to Council Affairs, Chairman, Mr. Pettit.
Yes, Mr. President, later on the agenda, we're going to have first reading ordinance 23-19. I spoke with Costa and Joe about this. This was in a group of ordinances that Joe had prepared, and I spoke to Costa. I've had several calls in the East 72nd Avenue area for some problem homes. Costa and I talked about this. He said he really needs this ordinance passed. It's going to give teeth to any of us that have nuisances in our wards that will allow the police officers to begin ticketing. Is that correct, Chief?
Yes.
So Joe's put this together. We'll have that on first reading later on. Unfortunately, we can't suspend because there's a fine. There are fines involved in this.
Is that all, Mr. Pettit?
That's it. I'm sorry.
Moving on to the Street Department, Mr. Minchuk.
The only thing I have to report now is Waste Management will be knocking down their times to 5 a.m. this week due to the extreme heat. So if we can get any town social media out there and just kind of blast it a little bit so everybody knows 5 a.m. is when they're going to start, just this week only due to the high heat. So I encourage everybody to get their garbage out the night before. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Elections, Public Relations, and Town Beautification, Mr. Pettit.
I'll defer my report to Mr. Hardaway later on in the agenda with announcements. Other than that, nothing, Mr. President.
Thank you. Environmental Affairs, Mr. White.
No report.
Personnel Policy and Employee Benefits, Mr. Hardaway.
Thank you, Mr. President. On yesterday afternoon, late yesterday afternoon, Councilman Bella received a letter from our town manager, Mr. Pat Reardon. And in that letter, Mr. Reardon advised us that he would be resigning his position as the town manager for the town of Merrillville, effective yesterday, July 24th. So I make a motion that we accept Mr. Reardon's resignation letter.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Hardaway with a second by Mr. Pettit. We accept Mr. Reardon's letter of resignation. Any questions or comments on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? The motion carries, Mr. Hardaway.
Thank you, Mr. President. That's all I have.
Public Safety, Mr. Minchuk.
We have several things in the work, still ongoing at this time. Nothing to report other than I believe we are in as at this time. Thank you, sir.
Economic Development, Mr. Pettit.
Yes, again, I defer to Mr. Hardaway on an announcement coming up Thursday for the job fair. Rich can go into that in detail.
You already started, Mr. Pettit. Anyway, the job fair will be Thursday from 11 to 3 p.m. at the Dean and Barbara White Community Center. If I'm not mistaken, we've got like 52 or 53 businesses that are lined up to come out. So anyone that's looking for employment, I just read this morning that our employment numbers are up again. So there's plenty of opportunities for everyone that's looking for employment to come out, and you're going to hopefully get a job. You may get interviewed on the spot and get hired. So we're looking for a great time. We will be out there.
What are the hours, Rich?
11 to 3.
Mr. Hardaway, the new report I was able to review, and there's 65 companies now.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you very much.
Great.
So, it's great. Parks and Recreations, Mrs. Uselak.
Thank you. Yes, the parks have been in order, thanks to Torrance. They're really cleaned up. We had in my ward a couple of birthday parties, and they went very well, and we cleaned up everything afterwards. So the parks are looking good, thanks to the park department with Mr. Torrance. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Abandoned and blighted properties, Mr. Hardaway.
No report, Mr. President.
The Dean and Barbara White Community Center, Mr. Pettit.
I will defer other items to Mr. Neal. Mike, do you have a report from Torrance?
Yes, I do. We have a couple events coming up. July 29th, we have a Jazz and Gospel Fest at the Community Center, start at 12 p.m. To 7 p.m. Also August 7th, Dana Evans, she's a graduate of Westside High School. She now plays for Chicago Sky, and she won a championship ring with them as well. So she's going to give a camp there. August 7th, 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Also, August 19th, we'll have Glow Night at the Dean and Barbara Community Center. Starts at 8 p.m. Also, August 26th, Cruise Night, which starts at 5 p.m. It'll be more details coming up. And also, the MMA fight that we had 1,200 people there. A nice crowd. We went really well. It went great.
Did you say 1,200, Mike?
1,200.
1,200 people.
Yes.
Great.
And we had a local that went to Merrillville High School. He played linebacker there, football. He wound up winning his match. He was a main event. He wound up winning his match.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you, Mike.
Yep.
That's great.
Given the current situation with the weather, council members, I informed Mike, and I know, Rick, you sent an email to Torrance. We'd like to open up the Dean and Barbara White Community Center from now until Friday as a cooling shelter for anyone that needs it. They can come down.
Yes.
There are vending machines obviously down there. Feel free to, if it gets too hot for you, we're going to see how the weather goes through Friday night. But Dean and Barbara White will be opened as a cooling shelter the rest of this week.
Mr. President.
Till 9 o'clock.
Till 9 o'clock, yes, thank you.
Mr. President,
Mr. White.
yes, I would also like to offer my 6120 Broadway as a cooling center as well, if there's some need to have a spillover. Hopefully we don't get it to the point where the Dean and Barbara White can't, but I just want to let you know that that would be available.
Great, thank you. Sheila, we need to make sure we let Brian Deering know that we're going to have a classic auto show. He's been on us for
Yes.
decades to have one, as recently as Friday at our committee meeting.
Yeah.
Sean? So could we extend him a personal invitation to attend our first ever? That would be great. Thank you. Moving on to special projects, Mr. Hardaway.
Thank you, Mr. President. We've already mentioned the job fair, and next Tuesday, August the 1st, will be National Night Out. National Night Out will be at Dean and Barbara White Community Center from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. The parking lot will be sectioned off by wards, and so we encourage residents to come out and have an opportunity to meet your elected official, fellowship with your neighbors. There will be food, water, pop, and music, games for the kids, bouncy houses for the kids, popcorn, snow cones, if I'm not mistaken, Pastor Bob, thank you. And so it's a great time. We had one last year. We had a great turnout. But the one thing that we encourage the residents to do is that to find what ward you're in and go to that area. Last year, there was a little misunderstanding where people were in the parking lot as opposed to going inside and sitting in the area that they lived in. So we encourage you, if you have any questions, we'll have a table at the entrance that will be able to tell you exactly where, what your award is, so that you'll be able to participate with the people in your award. Looking for a great time. Everyone is welcome. Please come out and enjoy yourselves. Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Hardaway. Moving on to department and commission reports, Lake County Solid Waste Management, Mr. White.
Yes, Mr. President. Last Thursday, we were supposed to meet at the Lake County Solid Waste District. We didn't have a quorum. Well, a couple of things that they wanted to talk about, I think I can put that out here, was basically personnel and budgeting issues. So the meeting has been rescheduled for like August 17th, something of that nature. That's it.
Thank you. Northern Indiana Regional Planning Commission, otherwise known as NERC, Mr. Hardaway.
Thank you, Mr. President. The only thing coming out of NERC is that we had a presentation from BP about the carbon hydrogen separation that's probably 2 or 3 years away, but it's something that's coming that's going to put Northwest Indiana on the map, and it's going to help us immensely in with the things that we're trying to do here. And secondly, we did approve our 2050 plan for NERC, and so that's going to be, I think I gave a copy of it to Mrs. Shine so that she can review it, and maybe it could help toward our comprehensive plan.
Oh, okay, sure.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Stormwater Management Resources, our director is Mr. Matt Lake.
Yeah, really quick, Golf Construction, they're back on the job out there at the Kaiser Ditch lateral, which we call Taney Ditch, so they're going to continue onward until they're done, so they're going full throttle, so that should be done pretty quickly there for all those crossings. And in the meantime, they did smooth over some of those crossings because the stone was getting compacted and all that, so they did take care of that the other day. Southmore Park Drainage Improvement Project, we're finalizing the bid documents for that, and that should be out for bid shortly. And Clay Street is done with the triple box culverts, so other than NIPSCO being there with the sub-transmission lines that they're installing, we could probably move forward and get that paved and get that all taken care of. That's all I have.
Thank you, Matt. Fire Territory Board, Mr. Minchuk.
The last meeting they had was postponed. The new meeting will be on August 10th. Mrs. Neal, did you get an email on that?
For
The Fire Territory?
I don't think I did.
I'll get with you later, August 10th.
All right.
That'll be all.
Mr. King, let's make sure the Fire Territory Board has the contact information for Mrs. Neal.
I've already done.
Okay, thanks. Department reports, Ms. Sheila Shine, Planning and Building.
The Planning and Building Department is very busy. We have issued all the building permits for the Nouveau Flats, which is the Brookshire community out on 93rd. We will be issuing the permits for the Weiss community down on the other side, 93rd, which will be the Monarchs. So we're very busy. We've already, the Planning and Building Department has already met their $1 million in building permit fees this year. So we're very busy, and thank you.
Congratulations.
Mr. President, to Ms. Shine, Sheila, are there petitions for August for the Plan Commission?
There are no petitions for the August plan.
There are no petitions?
No.
Okay. And that doesn't,
So there won't be a meeting?
Crime Night Out doesn't conflict.
No, but I always schedule it the next day anyway. When it's already scheduled for that Wednesday.
Okay.
So are we having a meeting on Wednesday then?
No.
No, okay.
Mr. King, do you want to report on street department, please?
Yeah, so our street department's very busy. We've been out crack sealing the roadways, also doing some asphalt pavement patching. We've been maintaining the town properties, mowing, weed whacking, various other things. So that's all we have. That's all I have for the street department.
Let's
Just
talk
busy.
about the tree branch program, how we're doing that now, and let's make sure all the residents know, and we'll get the word out.
We can do that. So the tree branch program, we've kind of revamped it a little bit. We used to pick up one time in the spring, one time in the fall, and any storm damage that occurred. Other than that, the residents could bring their branches to us at our north barn on the 5750 Tyler Street. So we've kind of revamped that. So what we're doing now is we did our spring pickup. We sent 2 crews through the town who picked everything up, and we are going to continuously have 1 crew go through the town all summer long, basically for the rest of the year until our leaf program picks up. And the time that the leaf program starts, we will stop the branch pickup, and everything should be picked up by that time. So that's how we're gonna handle this issue moving forward. If you got questions, you can call down to the street department. That number is 219-769-6784. If you got any questions, you can always feel free to reach out to us, and we can help you along the way.
That's great. Thank you, Steve.
You're welcome.
Anything else to add, Mike, from the Parks Department?
No, I just want to thank the guys that I have for doing a great job at the parks. You know, it's a lot of parks to take care of, but we have a great group of guys, even my assistant, James Wesley. And the young men that we have, they do an excellent job every year they come in. So I just want to say kudos to those guys for doing an excellent job. Can do it without you guys. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mr. President.
Mr. White.
Yeah, I just want to thank Steve for putting the speed humps on Grant Place, I believe it is, over there. Most people don't know that the shortcut most people use from 57th Avenue to 61st comes right through there. Mm-hmm. And people want to buy me a steak and stuff. Said, we'll buy you a steak now that we got those down. I'm like, no steaks, just doing the job that I was elected to do. So thank you, Steve, for taking care of that.
Thank you, Larry. Police Department, I hear there's a new chief in town. Why don't you tell us all about it?
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to start off tonight by saying thank you for everything tonight, and I'm going to do my best to make everybody here proud and serve the public the best that I can. I'm a Merrillville resident, I have been, and I take great pleasure in serving the public here. So with that being said, another announcement that I'm pretty excited about is we started working on updating and creating new ordinances today with the attorney. This is something that I've been super excited for, so thank you for making that happen. The other thing that we're starting to do and we're looking at now is we're going to try and study traffic patterns from the data that we can collect from the signs that we have, accidents, and when we're finding at-fault accidents. We're trying to get a formula to put together so we can actually have a creative and proactive approach to doing this, because now I get the complaints, I'll put officers out there, they'll sit out there for, sometimes they'll sit out there for an hour and nobody comes through. So what we want to do is we want to be proactive. We want to have an actual plan so we can have an idea of what the hot times are where people are actually speeding. So this is something that we're working on as well. Torrance and I had talked, Mrs. Uselak, about the issues that we were having at the parks. So we're going to be speaking with several different companies that have these mobile and portable cameras and see what kind of solutions we can come up with, because I know we're spending a lot of money on making our parks look nice and trying to keep them look nice. So this is something that we really wanted to look into. Also, I know the National Night Out is coming up, so I'm really looking forward to that, to seeing the public and meeting people and talking to everybody and getting an idea of what they expect of us, the police department. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Moving on tonight to general orders, we have first reading ordinances. Ordinance 23-19 is an ordinance concerning real estate in the town of Merrillville, which is used for, or permitted to be used for, illegal activities.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Pettit. Chair will recognize Mr. White for second. Mr. Svetnoff, how much of this would you like us to read in the record here?
You can read in the whereas paragraph, specifically number 4, and I think that should cover it.
Number 4 or the last one?
I'm sorry, all of them, specifically number 5.
Oh, no. Do you need some glasses? You want me to hold it over here? Jeff, can you loan your glasses to Kelly?
No, that he won't be able to see. No, I'm okay, I think. Okay. Town of Maryville, Indiana, Lake County, Indiana, ordinance number 2319, an ordinance concerning real estate in the town of Maryville which is used or permitted to be used by the owner for illegal activities and declaring the same a public nuisance. Whereas the Indiana Unsafe Building Act under Indiana Code 367-9-4 defines unsafe building and unsafe premises in part as those which are a public nuisance. And whereas the Unsafe Building Act provides in municipalities under Indiana Code 36-7-9-5 the statutory ability to take any reasonable action necessary against any unsafe building and unsafe premises by ordinance and code enforcement under the Unsafe Building Act. Whereas the Town Council of the Town of Maryville wishes to enable to the Town of Maryville's law enforcement and enforcement authority to identify, address, remedy, cite, and eliminate public nuisances located in the Town of Maryville under the town's police powers and for the purposes of promoting public safety and welfare and building a stronger and safe town for its residents. And whereas the Town Council of the Town of Maryville has determined that property located at the Town of Maryville upon which illegal activity occurs is a detriment to the public peace, health, welfare, and safety, and is thereby a public nuisance which shall be abated by law enforcement, the law department, and the town's enforcement authority. And whereas it is the intention of the Town of Maryville to create a lawful ordinance, and nothing in this ordinance shall be construed to encourage or authorize discrimination by any person or entity against any person based upon race, creed, religion, gender, age, family, status, disability, or national origin. Rather, it is the intent of this ordinance to provide for safe and healthful housing for Maryville residents and to hold persons and property owners accountable for appearing in, ignoring, tolerating, permitting, or participating in the use of the property for criminal, illegal, unhealthy, or unsafe conduct or activities once receiving notice of such activity from the Town of Maryville.
Thank you, Kelly. Joe, do you want to paraphrase from this point on?
Basically, what we've done is we've established a definition section, or revamped the definition section of this ordinance. We've gone to criminal, illegal, and unsafe use, or real estate prohibition, notice to owner, and activity of the property. So we've basically defined what criminal, illegal, and unsafe use is. We go to section 3, which is eviction proceedings as a defense. That's for the benefit of the property holder itself if they're leasing out the property. Criminal charges, these will not be considered criminal charges, instead civil charges against the property owner or leasee. Records kept, the records kept of the town will be on file. Penalty, the penalty has been severely advanced, and it'll be $2,500 potentially for the first offense, and second and subsequent offenses up to $7,500. So it really beefs up the penalty section itself. There's a severability, which basically states that if any one of these sections is declared null and void, that the whole ordinance won't be considered null and void. And of course, we have the effective date. So that's the sum and substance of the ordinance.
Mr. President, to Chief and to Joe, Chief, you and I talked on the phone about how many times you go to certain addresses, and you and I obviously talked about the one in Ward 6. Joe, how many times do the officers have to go before? Is this immediate if they get a call? Because we all know we get the loud music, we get the party, we get this and that in our wards, and then when they see the black and white rolling up, they shut everything down, and there's no noise violation, there's no this, there's no that. We talked about that, Costa. I don't know how many times we need to have this reported by residents that there's a house that's a nuisance.
Correct.
Go ahead, Costa.
I have several locations like that throughout town that this is going to benefit. We get there and we can never actually cite them because an officer can't actually observe the actual offense being committed. And in this case, Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, we would give them warning prior to start doing that, correct? We would give them pretty much a warning, hey, you're exceeding, these are nuisance calls, et cetera, right?
Correct.
Okay.
You give them the warning, then you go ahead and, you take any action.
So they get one warning. So if they show up on a Monday, they give them the warning and they get a call again on a Friday, they're going to start ticketing these people with the potential of $2,500 fine.
That's the way it's interpreted, yes.
All right, I'm just, the number, I just want to know the number when the constituents call and I tell them they got one chance. After that, the police are ticketing them.
Motion
Okay.
to accept ordinance 23-19.
We have a motion and a second on the floor already.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's Mr.
I was
Pettit
all
and
into
Mr. White. No, it's understandable. You can call for the question.
Call for the vote.
We
Mr.
have a
President.
call for the vote.
Do we
Anything
go
else
through-
to add, Mr. White?
Well, in terms of discussion, I was just wondering, does this particular ordinance also apply to apartment buildings, apartment building owners?
Applies to any address.
Any address, I think, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk Treasurer, roll call, please.
Certainly. Councilwoman Neal?
Yes.
Councilman Hardaway? Councilman Minchuk?
Yes.
Councilwoman Yuzlak?
Yes.
Councilman Pettit?
Yes.
Councilman White?
Aye.
And Councilman Bella?
Aye.
7 in favor.
7 in favor, motion carries on first reading. Thank you. Moving on to ordinance 23-20, it's an ordinance of the town of Merrillville, Lake County, Indiana, authorizing additional appropriations in the 2023 budget. This was, amounts requested were $40,000 for the CCD Park Improvements Fund, and this is the amount that we approved. The net effect is zero.
Motion approved.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Hardaway, second by Mrs. Uselak for approval of ordinance 23-20, authorizing expenditure of funds. Any discussion on this? Hearing none, Madam Clerk Treasurer?
Councilwoman Neal?
Yes.
Councilman Hardaway? Councilman Pettit? I'm sorry, Councilman Minchuk? I must be on the line.
Yes.
Those glasses really affect a lot.
Councilwoman Yuzlak?
Yes.
Councilman Pettit?
Yes.
Councilman White?
Aye.
And Councilman Bella?
Yes,
7 in favor.
7 in favor, that motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to second reading ordinances tonight. We have a second reading ordinance 23-18. It is a ordinance amending the salary ordinance. This is a second reading where we added the special services officer in the planning and building department. It's on your second page of the ordinance. You can see there under code enforcement, special service officer and the salary involved.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Hardaway, second by Mr. Minchuk for approval of ordinance 23-18 on second and final reading. Any discussion from the council? Is there any public comment? We're open for public comment on the second reading of this ordinance. Seeing none, back to the council.
Councilwoman Neal?
Yes.
Councilman Hardaway? Councilman Minchuk?
Yes.
Councilwoman Yuzlak?
Yes.
Councilman Pettit?
Yes.
Councilman White?
Yes.
And Councilman Bella?
Yes.
7 in favor.
7 in favor, that motion passes. Thank you. We don't have any resolutions tonight. We will jump right down to the American Rescue Plan voucher for purchases for July 25th, 2023. Mr. Hardaway.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tonight's voucher total is $67,460. I make a motion that we approve the ARP voucher.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Hardaway with a second by Mrs. Uselak for approval. Questions or comments from the council? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Moving on tonight to Board of Zoning Appeals and Large Gathering Actions, Mrs. Shine.
Mr. President, we have one large gathering application before us this evening. It is for St. Elijah Serbian Orthodox Cathedral. And it is approval for their SNF golf tournament. Their location is 8700 Taft Street. The golf tournament will be a 3-day event starting on Thursday, August 3rd Friday, August 4th, and Saturday, August 5th. The event will be from 3 p.m. to 12 a.m. each day. 300 people is the maximum number of people allowed to assemble each day. 300 tickets will be sold. Security will limit the number of people allowed at the event. Centurion Detective Agency will provide security. There will be 5 male indoor toilets, 1 male outdoor toilets. There will be 9 female indoor toilets available. All toilets will be maintained by the staff at St. Elijah. There will be 2 dumpsters on site, and there will be 20 trash containers on site, which will be maintained by Ileana Disposal of Highland, Indiana. The office telephone can be used to provide telephone service to the public, and there will be 575 parking spaces on site, which be accessible from a paved public street. No other parking will be used. There will be bands and dancers performing each day. There will be no overnight stays and no camping on site. No animals will be a part of this assembly, and alcohol and food will be served.
So moved.
We have a motion by Mrs. Uselak. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Pettit. Open for discussion.
Yes, Mr. President.
Mr. White.
Just a small question for Sheila here. It does say a golf tournament, correct?
Yes.
Okay, they're not going to be playing golf until 12 a.m.
So that's the hours of operation of their event. I don't know exactly how the golf tournament is set up.
Either the golf tournament is off-site.
Okay.
So they get back within 5 hours of when the tournament starts. Then they just keep the festival going.
Oh.
So it's a celebration and a festival.
So the golf tournament, thank you, council. We are giving permission for what is happening at 8700 Taft Street.
Correct.
Correct.
And that is where they will have the entertainment, and that is where they will have the food being served. And so the golf, they didn't, because the golf must not be in Merrillville, they didn't ask us
The
for
golf may be
permission.
in Merrillville, it may not, but the main thing is, that's the total title of the event itself,
Mhm.
the golf outing and the festival itself. So I think that's why they included it, but the golf outing has nothing, it's not going to be on site at 87.
At 8700, okay. Okay,
That's it. Thank you.
thank you.
Sheila, one thing I like to point out as we approve all these different activities and church events is that I always notice as soon as we approve them, that's when I see all the signs going up. And part of our process here is not really approving signs. And I don't mind that they put a sign up, but if it blocks traffic or the line of traffic or line of sight, or during a windstorm, they get all tore up and then they sit there, then I think we need to be involved and help them understand the sign ordinance in town and what they can do and not do.
So I send out an approval letter to each person when they get approved, along with the event permit. I will include that in the letter.
That'd be very helpful, thank you.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Any old business before us tonight? Any new business tonight?
Mr. President.
Mr. White.
I just wanted to, maybe I should have let Richard do this, talk to Pastor Bob. They're going to have the back-to-school block party on August 5th from 1 to 4. I probably should have brought it up a little early under Mr. Hardaway's presentation, but I just want to mention that that's going to happen. And thank you for doing this for the community.
Are you going to pass a few of those down for the council?
Oh,
Mr.
yes.
White? Okay, thanks. Moving on to public comment. Is there any public comment this evening? Please approach the podium, state your name and address for the record, and we allow 3 minutes for comments.
How many should I give out? 3 minutes you want to take?
Mr. Svetnoff, would you please time?
Sure. Shonda Flowers, 6137 Connecticut Street, Merrillville, Indiana. So I did not want to brush over the fact that you all have accepted the town manager's resignation. I must admit that it's a little disappointing because when you think about some of the issues that you have that travel from one area to the other, Without going into details or discussing certain matters, this is one of those incidents where he should have just been fired. I can't help but to go back to one particular event
We're not-
itself.
Mr. Svetnoff,
We are not discussing personnel issues at this time.
that's not appropriate, Shonda, I'm sorry.
I understand.
Okay.
What I will say, though, without going into detail, is that when I look at your statement again of diversity in that first line or paragraph, that I hope that as a solution, that skill path is a process that you guys will look into as an investment tool for the employees of the town. And what that means is that there should be, and I've, in my life prior to working for the town, when I was a corporate trainer, we did yearly trainings. And Skill Path would be an excellent tool that HR can work with regards to yearly training for employees of the town, so they have a better understanding of expectations and fall in line with your statement of diversity and equity. So I hope that that is something, and again, I have made myself available to HR with the past that I have in being a corporate trainer and willing to help set up some of those trainings for the employees, especially as the town continues to grow.
Thank you, Shonda.
You're welcome.
Hi, my name is Darianne Collins, 2505 West 65th Avenue. I just wanted to touch on the resignation of the town manager. I heard no comments in terms of the path forward. We're going to post a job, we're going to look at candidates, we're going to refill the position. Our goal is to have the position filled by X date. The responsibilities are being held by such and such person until the position is filled. So I heard none of that. And so he's gone, that's fine, I don't care. But we still need to know who's gonna do that work. That's the part I'm concerned with. So we
King is
heard,
going to be our acting town manager until further notice, and we'll start that process, as you just spoke of, very soon. This just
Okay.
happened yesterday.
okay,
So
well,
today's
we just need to
Tuesday.
know, the people
Yeah.
who still live here and care.
But we
So
care too.
what,
We care
who's
too.
gonna do that
Absolutely.
work?
Right.
That's number one. Number two, I haven't heard anything about the Hickory Ridge situation. There still needs to be some oversight over that facility. Like I said, my grandson and his mom were living there. She still doesn't have her $835 deposit back from those people. There's still nefarious stuff going on over there. And so I just want to know, do we have a team other than people who are not employed by the town who are actively engaged with those people? So I want to ask about that. I mentioned the situation with animals and with loose dogs. There was a young man who was bit by a dog at the park. You may have seen that on Facebook. He was bit by he's Shonda's nephew. He was bit by a dog at the park on 57th, and I just call it cruising. Anyway, over there, and they were not able to find the owner of the dog, and he has now started a series of rabies shots. And so I do want us to pay some attention to what is going on with animals and with pets in the town, because I just don't like the trend. They found them? Okay, okay. So I want to pay attention to that. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Delina Thomas, 5974 Polk Court. Before I start my complaint, I want to start off with a compliment. I wasn't able to be here at the last meeting, so I just want to extend my congratulations to Councilwoman Neal. You look good sitting up there, and congratulations. Secondly, also to the police department, I want to give a compliment to the police officers. Monday, we were approached by a woman in a car saying that her son was missing. And at the time, when she gave me her story, it was a little bit uneasy. I didn't know if she was telling me the truth because, again, police was not out there looking. I was able to contact Councilman White, and at that time, he sent two police cars, came right over. They explained to me that they had been informed of the situation about the young man, and they proceeded to park and continue to walk the neighborhood. They continued the search for him. He was found later on that evening, so he was returned back to his parents safely. So I just want to compliment the police department for coming out in their efforts that day. That brings me to the issue where I'm here. At 59th Court, at Polk Court, that corner is becoming a public safety kind of issue. There's a pond there. And when I moved here 18 years ago, I was able to look out my window and know that it was a pond there. You cannot tell there's a pond there. It looks like a swamp. The weeds have turned into trees. Kids tend to wander down in that area, and you can't even see them when they're down there. So I brought up the issue of the young man that was missing, because our fear that morning, me and my other neighbors, was that because he had been gone a period of time overnight, that he had maybe fallen into that pond. So we were all extremely scared and concerned about that. And again, unfortunately, there is little children on our street that are not properly supervised and tend to wander into that area. So before, I can't say who was responsible for, but the first at least 10 years that we were there, someone at least came once or twice a year, but from the city, and kind of cleaned that area, because the houses on either side only mow the lawn up until right here, but that corner area and all that is completely overgrown. So I would just hate for, also the young man that was missing, other little kids in our neighborhood told us that he had fell in that pond 3 times once before. So I would just hate for, it'd be a story about another kid falling into that pond and wasn't able to get back up and recover. So if someone could come out and clean that area up. I also met with Marty and Carl from the Merrillville Momentum, and they even talking to them about the issue there, they even said that because of the fact that it's not being properly maintained and cleaned, that it is going to become a worser issue for also the residents on our street, to where it's going to become overgrown, and if it does rain a couple of days, then it's going to continue to flood, and that could also cause another problem for our town. So I just wanted to know, for years I've been trying to get people, I've been in contact with Councilman White trying to get someone to come out and manage and maintain that area. So I was just here to just see what needs to be done. Can the area even really, if y'all not gonna clean it up, can it even just be fenced off so that little kids in our neighborhood cannot access it easily?
Mr. President. Yeah, thank you, School Board Member Delina. At the last council meeting, I did mention it to the stormwater guy, Mr. Matt Lake, and I was supposed to meet with him last week. I didn't get a chance to meet with him last week because I had some other pressing issues, but it is still a dangerous situation, and I know the director made a statement as to it's not in our inventory. Maybe now we might want to put it in the inventory. Steve, do you have anything where we can cut the weeds around this thing?
Around the pond?
Yes.
Our department, we don't mow around ponds. That's a hazard.
Okay, well, Matt, is there a way that we can
We
get
gotta
that?
see who owns the pond first, who owns the property. Let's start there. But
Could that fall into the ordinance that y'all just have about?
like a nuisance you're talking about? I would believe so. I mean, we also have contractors. I got called late from GE Marshall looking to put clean fill somewhere. So there's opportunities to convert these wet ponds into dry basins, which are safer. And that would be my preference overall for a solution, but.
Because do the town even come out, because the algae even, that's, when you walk up to it, that is, the film that is on the pond, it's disgusting. Like even, does our town treat the water?
It's not private property, no.
Okay, so it would have to be looked into to see if it's privately
Yeah,
owned.
see what the ownership is. We could look that up pretty quickly. I could do that and get with Leonard.
Okay. And it's just one last thing, the ordinance that y'all did approve today, so that is effective as of today. So if there's an address that has been a town nuisance.
It's not effective yet. We have to do it on second reading, which would be at the next council meeting.
Okay, so it won't, once that hopefully passes and does take effect, from that point, any
Yes.
call, so
Right.
it's nothing that they've done before does not matter. It's from that point.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes, Matt, can you also look and see who owns that property? I know at one
Yeah,
time, it was stated that the property was up for taxes, and I haven't pretty much heard anything else. I think it was like $5,000. However, it's still a nuisance. We don't want kids to get drowned there, so I think that we had to do something. Again,
Yeah, let's start with the ownership and go from there for sure.
Okay.
Let's see what the.
yeah, because Mr. Lena actually has been complaining about that to me for a couple of 2 or 3 times. I want her to leave here today knowing that there's some type of a solution to that, so.
And it was 5975, was it?
I live at 5974, and it's the corner of 59th
Okay.
Court and 59th Court and Polk Court.
Okay.
That corner right there.
Okay. We'll look into it for sure.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And again, on behalf of the Merrillville School Board, I do just want to thank the town for the grant that they approved for us. That money's going to come in handy for the continuation of helping our kids with our CTE program and possibly the truancy court that we may have to develop. So on behalf of the board, Merrillville School Board, I just want to thank you all for that. Thank you.
Brian Messarch, 201 East 68th Place. I'd like to offer congratulations again to Chief. So many of us longtime residents are so happy that you're going to continue to provide leadership to the police department and bring a lot of your awesome ideas to the town of Merrillville. I was wondering, Mr. President, if you could repeat the name of the interim manager for the town.
Steve King.
Steve King. For the Parks Department, Mr. Neal, on the C&O bike trail between Madison and Broadway, there's a ton of glass. I don't know who particularly needs to go out there to check that out, but that's bad for feet and pet feet and bicycle tires. If we could take a look at that, we'd appreciate that.
Can I ask you a question? So when did you notice that?
That was this afternoon, about an hour or two before I came over this way.
Okay.
So that's right over by my house. Also, when the community center is being used as a cooling center, does that also provide a cooling center for pets like dogs and cats? Residents are going to want to know that.
No, we don't have pets allowed in the community center.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Dennis Walton, pastor, Faith Temple Christ Church, Merrillville, Indiana, 7601 Wickham Street. I want to first of all thank the council for their understanding of the value of allowing prayer to go forth in your council meetings. Special thanks to our lead, Pastor Robert, who's made sure schedules were fulfilled properly. And of course, we know that the scripture says, Proverbs 197:1, that except the Lord build a house, the laborers build it in vain. Except the Lord keeps a city, the watchman waketh in vain. And so to our new police chief, I want to just commend him for allowing us to pray with him monthly. And we know that that's important for the safety of the citizenship. And some may not believe the power of prayer, but we know that covering him along with the police officers will help the city to have less casualties and have safety that only God can provide for us. I want to say that, the town of Merrillville is a blessed town, and Police Chief Costas is a man of God, and I want to ask not only that the clergy pray, but the public, those who are viewing the broadcast, would keep our chief and also police officers and all the elected officials in prayer, because that's important for us. Again, special commendation to Pastor Robert, who's been really on top of making sure that our role as clergy is fulfilled. I don't know if it was announced, but he's having a back-to-school block party, free food, games, school supplies, and he support the town. I hope others will come out and support him. Thank you, and God bless you.
Hi, I'm sorry, I forgot 2 things. Darian Collins, 2505 West 65th Avenue. Back to school, the city of Hammond has a unified back-to-school effort where all of the different organizations and residents throughout the town go to one location. They get their school supplies. If they have to get vaccinations, they do voter registration, they get book bags, they do all kinds of stuff. And I've participated in a couple of years. Michigan City has a similar effort. So instead of all of these organizations having individual back-to-school efforts, they try to unify all the resources of the town and do one. So we may not be able to do that this year, but I would hope that maybe that's something that we can think about doing next year. Okay, so number one, I wanted to bring that up. And then number two, for the National Night Out, I know that current town council representation will be there, but I would hope that when you're talking to residents of the ward, that you will be positive, that you will say that those of you who will not be in those positions next year, I would hope that you would tell the residents that they're going to be in good hands, that the town of Merrillville is going to move forward, and that you're going to work with whoever is in that seat, because we all need to work together. So some of the people that are going to be at National Night Out this year will not be there next year. And we want to give a very positive and upbeat and uplifting message to people when they come through, that whoever's in that chair, they are going to work and do the best for the town. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Darian. Moving on to announcements tonight, the BZA meeting will be July 26th at 6:30. We all heard about the job fair, which is this Thursday from 11 to 3, and the next town council meeting is August 8th at 6:30. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Edit, Mrs. Uselak, all in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, guys.
You guys have anything over there that can sign? You have?
You've got